Welcome back everyone to another Kaiserreich country overview, this time looking at Serbia. So, Serbia, what can we say? Well, clearly, let's just let the history event pop up. Compared to our timeline, well, as you all know, very quick history lesson just to get you sped up on things. During our timeline in World War I, Serbia fought against the Austro-Hungarian Empire. After gaining independence from the Ottomans during the 19th century, Serbia essentially had as its main political goal the liberation/incorporation of the Austro-Hungarian Slavic territories, or Southern Slavic territories, to form a sometimes greater Serbia, sometimes a federation of Southern Slavs, such as Serbs, but not only Serbs, also Croats, and Bosniaks, although the concept of Bosniaks is very complicated, and sometimes Macedonians, Bulgarians, etc. From, of course, the populations of both the Ottoman and Austrian empires. 1914, Gavrilo Princip kills the Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo. After this, World War I starts, but of course this wasn't simply because of course of the killing of the Archduke, but mostly it was a conflict that was initially flared up by the ethnic tensions in the Balkans, which then, because of all of the, of course, alliance chaining and different political implications of Germany and Britain, etc., escalated into World War I. In Kaiserreich, since the Entente loses, Serbia at the end does not get reinstated and reformed into the kingdom Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, also known as Yugoslavia, but it gets essentially taken over by the Austro-Hungarians and split up with the Bulgarians. Now, the Bulgarians, as you can see, are quite big as opposed to what they're supposed to be in real life, which would be, well, about like this. And, of course, because of the then later problems with the Austro-Hungarian Empire, with the, of course, Central Power in Vienna being unable to keep together all of the different parts of the empire, plus all of the various crises that are still flaring up, eventually a Serb sort of rump state can rise up from the grave under a regent, Petar Bojovic, instead of, the monarchy, because, of course, it is still technically a unrecognized entity, and trying to essentially build up a military that can try to deal with the Austro-Hungarians and the Bulgarians, and trying to once again liberate/occupy southern Serb lands in both of these empires, and trying, well, of course, even though the Bulgarians themselves are southern Serbs, or southern Slavs, and trying to either, again, restore Greater Serbia, or make a federation of Southern Slavs. Pretty much exactly what you'd expect. So, in a lot of ways, Serbia in 1936 at Kaiserreich is very much like Serbia in 1914 in our timeline, except it is not quite as powerful, and its army isn't quite as strong as the army that Serbia had before World War I, because the army before World War I in Serbia had been trained by battle. It had been forged in the fires of the Balkan Wars, the two Balkan Wars that ravaged, or three Balkan Wars that ravaged all throughout the lead-up period to World War I, between, of course, first the Slavic powers being, of course, Greece being allied against the Ottomans, and then Romania, Serbia, and Greece allied against Bulgaria. And then eventually, of course, the war versus Austria. So, in this timeline, of course, Serbia does not have this luxury, having lost its army during World War I pretty much entirely. The army is made up of basically, 5 infantry divisions, 1 mountaineer, and 2 cavalry. Although, it is not, again, the strong force that you may think from our timeline. It is not weak at all, considering the size of Serbia, especially considering that there's only 3 military factories that the country has at its disposal. The regent, as I said, is Petar Bojovic, who is, of course, a big military commander figure in World War I and the Balkan Wars. and of course tries to run Serbia pretty much like the monarchy had done in the lead up to World War One. Looking at the national focuses for Serbia are, in my opinion, extremely interesting. Let's start off with the economic ones, which are pretty much the most basic. You just get a few resources, and you have a choice between agriculture, which is more civilian factories and building slots, and then industry, which is more focused on military industry. Then you have, of course, an air force tree. Let's just do that. An air force tree, which is pretty much standard. And then a naval tree once you do gain a coastline, because as you can see at the start, you are landlocked. Looking at the army tree, you have two choices, either Nedic, Milan Nedic, well, let's just take a look at the marshals, Milan Nedic, or Draža Mihailović. Both of these leaders have two different ideas. Mihailović more focused towards grand battle plan and special forces. Nedic more focused towards cavalry, armor, and artillery. So you have that choice right then and there. And then you have really the most important ones, which is the political and diplomatic trees. Now, these are locked behind time, so you're going to have a little bit of time to build up your economic strength before you actually go into action. First of all, you can choose what kind of government form you're going to be having. This is mostly just after about a year, and you're going to be able to either continue Petar Boyevic's regency, and then of course trying to, because Petar Bojević is coming from military, you can have more military bonuses because of it. You can either crown a king, so pretty much fulfill the stated purpose of the regency and get a monarchy back together, which can be absolutist or constitutional. Of course, absolutist being more focused towards military and forceful takeover of enemies, whereas, of course, constitutional is more focused towards the economy and trying to build a more economically free society, and, of course, more political power in the end with the beacon of liberty. You can declare a republic, and I think this one is actually kind of the most interesting, because then you actually hold elections, just like the constitutionalists. If you have these two, you can hold elections, and then you can jump down and get a lot of research bonuses, and of course that democracy in the Balkans, which is quite good. And that's all fine and dandy, which ends up essentially being a choice between which of these parties you're going to be having in power. You will have already seen, but you can have the paternal autocrats if you are indeed a absolute monarchy, which would be the Srpska nacionalna stranka, the Serbian National Party. Srpska napredna stranka, I do not know what that means, and that is the authoritarian Democrat. Narodna radikalna stranka, People's Radical Party, and Samostalna demokratska stranka, which would be the Independent Democratic Party. All these three are, of course, the ones market liberal, social conservatives, and authoritarian Democrats are the ones that you can choose between in elections. Although, well, the authoritarian Democrats wouldn't be really a choice if they are a coup. You also have the social liberals that I believe have a way to worm into power. The Democratic Party, Demokratska stranka, also within the election system. Then you have really the meat and potatoes, which is how you're going to go about trying to extricate yourself from this mess that is the Balkans right now, and trying to form a strong, united federation of the Southern Slavs, or a greater Serbia that can form stability in the Balkans. Well, the first step towards that is, of course, the Congress of Belgrade, which is a diplomatic initiative that Serbia is going to get together between Romania, Greece, and Serbia. So the three powers that most lost from the Great War, and that are most interested in the destruction of both the Bulgarians and the Austrians, because they basically need to regain some territory from both of them, and then the Ottomans too, for good measure. So a sort of revival of the Balkan League from before World War I, except in the form of a Belgrade pact. And going down from there, you can either choose to go with a Greater Serbia or a Slavic Federation, but most likely the first choice that you're going to be working towards is an ultimatum to Bulgaria. An ultimatum to Bulgaria to try to, of course, get them to surrender their illegally claimed lands and give them back to their rightful owners. Of course, you have several of these lands, mostly in the areas in which the Bulgarians expanded. So you have Dobruja in, of course, modern Romania. You have Macedonia, which is claimed by the Serbs, and of course a few little bits of land in the Western Balkans. And then, of course, you have Thessalonica, that is, of course, a Greek city that the Greeks are going to be looking to reoccupy for themselves. And then, once you have done that, you're going to be looking towards the bigger enemy, which is, of course, the Empire of Austria, which can, of course, facilitate things by breaking up, but sometimes you may have to go at it alone. And to do that, you can either work towards, again, the Slavic Federation or Greater Serbia. Greater Serbia ends up giving you more cores around the southern regions and Montenegro, and then also giving you more options to deal with, for example, Albania and the Ottoman Empire. Whereas the Slavic Federation is, of course, looking to form Yugoslavia, which is going to give you cores on all of historical Yugoslavia. So, essentially, from Macedonia all the way to Slovenia. And I believe even in Trieste, you actually don't get a claim or a core on Trieste. Okay, but still, pretty much that is what you're going to be working towards, and it's actually a really fun campaign. So I do absolutely suggest you go for it and you try this one out, because it is very, very fun, and that you, of course, try out all the different paths, because they actually do have quite a lot of options. And what I also really like about it is the way that this campaign really interacts with how Austria is doing in your game and how the Ottoman Empire is doing in your game, because, of course, if Austria or the Ottoman Empire are particularly strong, the campaign gets very, very challenging and very, very fun. So I do very much recommend you to play this. As always, more of these types of videos will be coming out soon enough, so if you do want, you can subscribe. If you enjoyed it, you can also drop down a like in the comments, or a like, just period, and then a comment, maybe, I don't know. And then, if you didn't like it, dislike it, whatever. So I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.